"I've been here for 3 days, but I haven't found a job that fits my skills," said a job seeker who arrived at Shenzhen Longhua Station at the end of March from a small city in Guangdong Province. According to a report by Nikkei News on April 18, at Longhua Station, some employment agencies provide job opportunities for migrant workers from other provinces, usually in electronics factories and other manufacturing plants. If these migrant workers find a job, they will have accommodation. But those who cannot find a job often have nowhere to live. Scenes of unemployed migrant workers curling up in sleeping bags at the station have drawn attention. Although seasonal workers have flocked to the city since the cancellation of the zero clearance policy, manufacturing plants have not rebounded enough to employ them, said a security guard at the station. At the end of March, the number of migrant workers increased by 2.3% compared to the same period last year, but China's urban unemployment rate in the first quarter of this year was only slightly lower than the 5.6% for the whole of 2022, when the Chinese economy was severely hit due to the 2-month lockdown of Shanghai and other factors. Herbert Lun runs a company in Shenzhen that produces electric hair curlers and other beauty products. He says that demand for Chinese products from overseas has been weak, and orders from Europe have sharply declined. Compared to the same period last year, orders have fallen, Lun told Nikkei News. "We have noticed that the recovery speed in our industry is slower. Despite the end of the clear to zero policy, people were hoping for an improvement in China's overall employment market. However, the continued slump in the real estate market and weak demand for Chinese exports worldwide means that migrant workers may not benefit much from it." Not long ago, Guangdong Province proposed to send 300,000 young people to the countryside by the end of 2025, leading to discussions on social media about China's economic downturn and the ongoing severe unemployment situation. According to statistics from the National Bureau of Statistics of China, the unemployment rate among urban youth aged 16 to 24 was 19.9% last year and 18.1% in the first 2 months of this year. The actual unemployment rate may be even higher. The manufacturing downturn is one of the reasons for the soft labor market. China's industrial production growth rate from January to March was 3.0%, lower than the annual growth rate of 3.6% in 2022. Due to people's concerns about their jobs, sales of durable goods such as cars and home appliances have stagnated. In Dongguan, the manufacturing center of China adjacent to Shenzhen, people strongly feel the pain of the stumbling economic recovery, with employers retreating and even closing factories. According to the Nikkei News, the recent closure of a garment factory resulted in 1,700 employees losing their jobs, while Nanbao Shoe Factory has warned workers that the factory will shut down for a month due to international environmental impact that has damaged its business. The owner of a factory that produces metal screws, nuts, and bolts said he is preparing for the pain of the next few months. "It's getting harder and harder to run the business. Orders have decreased and demand is also low," he said. "The signs of a global economic slowdown are becoming increasingly evident. Export prospects are also very uncertain. As of late March, about 60% of dozens of cranes handling cargo at Tianjin port were idle. The orders received from abroad are less than half of the same period last year," lamented a trading company boss in Tianjin. Due to geopolitical issues, the Chinese Communist Party's zero-COVID policy, and tense U.S.-China relations, foreign investment is leaving China. A report by the Beijing-based economic research firm Gavekal Dragonomics shows that by 2022, the inflow of U.S. venture capital into China will drop to $7 billion, about one-third of the 5-year average. Beijing's support for ally Russia's invasion of Ukraine has also intensified the U.S.-China tension. Dan Wang of Gavekal Dragonomics told Nikkei that as the war drags on, both sides continue to portray each other as villains, and there is no doubt that the tension will further escalate. He added that there is almost no sign of reconciliation. A survey of hundreds of Chinese CEOs highlights a pessimistic outlook, with 77% of executives believing that economic downturn will last for over a year. According to a report released in March by U.S. consulting firm AlixPartners, about 43% of respondents plan to lay off or freeze hiring. Hang Seng Bank China's chief economist, Wang Dan, told the Wall Street Journal in February that employment pressure on low-skilled workers will be a prominent issue this year. She estimated that up to 3 million low-skilled workers are now stuck in rural areas due to the decrease in urban job opportunities. Economists say that it's difficult to accurately measure the employment situation in China's rural areas, as most migrant workers are not included in the overall unemployment survey focused on urban areas. According to data released by China's National Bureau of Statistics on Tuesday, Integrated Circuit (IC) Output in the first quarter of this year fell by 14.8% compared to the same period last year, while microcomputer equipment output dropped by 22.5% and smartphone production shrank by 13.8%. Bloomberg pointed out that China's domestic smartphone brands, such as Oppo, Vivo, and Xiaomi, are still struggling to overcome more than a year of sluggish sales. Not only has domestic sales slowed down, but the escalating tension between the United States and China is prompting international electronic brands like Apple to reduce their made-in-China production and move production capacity outside of China. This puts China's tech manufacturing industry under pressure from competition from countries like India, Vietnam, and Thailand. The U.S. government's action to contain China's semiconductor industry has also hit the Chinese Communist Party's tech ambitions. Chinese manufacturers can no longer access leading technology to produce the most advanced silicon chips. The decline in electronic product output has dragged down China's total industrial output growth. In March, China's industrial output increased by 3.9%, while its gross domestic product, GDP, increased by 4.5% year-on-year during the same period. After the data was released, China's largest chipmaker, SMIC, saw its Hong Kong stock price drop by as much as 5.5%, and smartphone maker Xiaomi's stock price dropped by 2%. In addition to the uneven recovery, the persistently high youth unemployment rate is also a major concern, particularly with the record-breaking 11.58 million students graduating from universities and colleges this year. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the unemployment rate for urban residents aged 16 to 24 in China rose sharply from 18.1% in February to 19.6% in March, close to the record high of 19.9% reached in July last year. Bloomberg believes that part of the reason for the increase may be due to people returning to cities to look for work after the Chinese New Year holiday. This data must be closely monitored in the coming months. Reuters analysis suggests that while Beijing has promised to increase support for the economy to control the unemployment rate, its impact may be limited as companies are grappling with debt risks, structural challenges, and the possibility of a global economic recession. China's export volume in March appeared to have unexpectedly surged, but analysts warn that this improvement partly reflects suppliers' efforts to catch up on unfulfilled orders after the end of COVID-19 restrictions.